As we begin our service each week, we light 5 candles, one for Wiley Dobbs, who lives in prison in Georgia, one for our friends in Cuba, one for all whose lives have been and continue to be impacted by COVID-19. We light a candle for all whose lives are impacted by violence in all of its forms. And we light a candle for those who are not able to be with us here, who are part of this community, and for each of you. Welcome to worship.
Pastor, peace in the body.
Peace.
Missy. You come peace tonight?
Welcome to Circle of Mercy.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a wonderful day.
Why? Because you're here, Abby.
And you're here, Sydney.
And because all of these friends are here.
Yes, and welcome all of who are visiting.
If you're
today.
visiting, please stand and say your name.
Today we have music
And stories.
and prayers
And time together with each other.
and with God's Spirit. Now let's worship together.
slightly different. It's a mean old king. And this is a story that was told about Jesus. There was a mean old king named King Herod. And he just did terrible things. And John the Baptist, well, he decided that he should go to the king and tell him to start acting right. That he just hadn't been doing the right thing. So, John the Baptist went to King Herod and said, "Hey, king, you really aren't doing right. I think you ought to shape up, and I think you ought to start doing things that God wants you to do and do it right. And be kind to people." Well, King Herod didn't like that at all, not one bit. So King Herod had John the Baptist thrown into prison. And there was John. Oh, he was so sad, and he wondered what was going to happen to him. And he wondered, is there anybody that can help him? And he was looking out the prison window, and there were his followers. And his followers were talking to him. And John the Baptist peered through that window and he said, "Listen, these are troubled times. Could you just go to Jesus and ask Jesus? Ask him if he's the one that is the leader that's going to set everybody free and liberate us and be the deliverer. Is he the leader, or should we look for somebody else?" So, John's followers came to Jesus and asked that question. "Are you the one, or do we need to look for somebody else?" And Jesus said, "Oh, you need to open your eyes and let's see what's going on. Why, people who are blind, they're starting to be able to see, and see in ways they've never seen before. And then, people who have been bent over and lame, we're having people help them along, and they're able to walk with the help of others, and it's amazing." And then Jesus said, not only that, but people who've been banished, who've been bullied, who've been called names, who've been pushed out of the community, why, they are being brought back into the community. And they're hearing their one true name, beloved, beloved of God. And not only that, people who have been smushed, slammed down, sad, in despair, wondering how they're going to make it. Why, they even look like they're dead. Why, they are being raised right up, and the community is helping them. And not only that, but look around. Those who haven't had enough, why, they're being brought into the community, and people are sharing what they have, and there is enough. So Jesus said, "You followers of John, I want you to go back. I want you to tell John what you see. Tell him that even in the midst of all the troubles, God's Spirit is bringing goodness. God's Spirit is bringing people together. And there is healing and hope, that it's happening all over." And sure enough, they did. And they started seeing in a way they hadn't seen before. And this story about Jesus, why, it's been told and told and told again. And told here after all these hundreds and hundreds of years, so we can remember to keep our eyes open for how God's Spirit is bringing goodness. Let's stand and have our prayers. Thank you, God, that even in the midst of all the troubles, we see your goodness coming forth. Thank you for the community that keeps bringing forth your spirit of hope. Amen.
Each week we join our hearts together in prayer, bearing witness to the places where we are seeing the goodness of God breaking forth in the world, and also bearing witness to the places where we long to see that goodness breaking forth. So I invite you, as you're able, to stand and share the prayers that we can carry with you this week as a community. And Rebecca has a microphone and she'll come to you if you'll just wave to her. What prayers do you bring with you tonight? Let's pray together. God of mercy, for all the ways that we sense your abiding love and presence with us, we give thanks. We trust that even when your presence feels distant to us, you are with us. We pray tonight for those who are experiencing illness in body, mind, or spirit. Comfort them and help them as they seek health and healing. Comfort them especially when health and healing don't seem possible. We pray for those who are walking through uncertainties, not knowing what to do or which way to go. Guide them as they discern and wander through the unknowns. Give them strength to do the one next right thing. We pray for those whose hearts are broken for a million different reasons. Help them piece together what is possible given their circumstances. Remind them that they are your beloved children. Holy One, we live in a world that is both wonderful and terrifying. Give us the desire to get up each day ready to pay attention to the wonders around us. Give us courage each day to face those things that terrify us and leave us trembling. Keep us hungry for peace and justice as we seek to create with you a world where all can live in peace and unafraid. Amen.
In Matthew's Gospel, in chapter 11, it says, "Now when Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and proclaim his message in their cities. When John heard in prison what the Messiah was doing, he sent word by his disciples and said to him, 'Are you the one that is come, or are we to wait for another?' Jesus answered them, 'Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have good news brought to them. And blessed is anyone who takes no offense at me.'" From the Gospel of Matthew.
Can't have too many of these. Yeah, good. Got it. Many years ago, I found myself on the south side of Chicago. I was visiting my friend Susan, and I went with her to her Sunday church where she was attending. And when we arrived at the church, the pastor saw us, and he knew that we were both clergy, and so as the custom of that church was, he invited us to sit with the other clergy on the podium. And Susan and I were put right in front of the drummer. It was fabulous. You could start feeling the Spirit very quickly. And this first song started happening, and this is the kind of song that really prepared you for this worship together, because it went on and on and on. And it was incredible. And during this singing of this first song, the pastor came over to me and he said, "Pastor, would you be willing to read the scripture text that is printed in our program today?" And he said, "As soon as this song ends, just stand at the podium and offer this word." So I said, "Okay." So while everybody was singing, I glanced down at what I was to read. It was straight out of Titus, one of our favorites. And the verses were, "Wives, be submissive to your husbands." And then a few verses down from that was, "Slaves, be obedient to your masters." Of all the verses in the entire Bible, these are the ones I got for today to read. I punched Susan and I said, "Susan, look at these verses. I can't say these verses without a sermon coming after it." And Susan said, "The Spirit will give you the Spirit. We don't have time for the Spirit." The song ended. Susan shoved me toward the pulpit. And as I stood there, I took a deep breath, and I got to that first troublesome verse. And I said, "Wives, be in mutual submission with your husbands." I looked over at the pastor. He smiled. I thought, okay, I can go on. Then I got to that second troublesome verse, and I said it as a question. Slaves, be obedient to your masters? The pastor started laughing. And then a wave of laughter went through the entire congregation. And I thought, finally, we have interpreted these passages like we should have. Well, I sat down. The pastor got up and he said, Pastor Nancy, I do believe you came here to preach today. Oh, no. No. Yes, I do believe you came here to preach. Come on up. What are you going to do? So I came on up and I preached. Kind of. And one of the ministers who was on that podium came over to me and she placed her hands on my shoulders and she said, "Preach it, sister!" Well, I did. And I think really it might have been one of my better sermons. I'm sorry you missed it. But what I thought was, we need to have a really major editing of this book. This has been a book that has not only liberated people, but it has confined and oppressed and killed people. It is a dangerous book. And the way we tell the story matters. And that we tell the story matters. And these kind of days, the conflicting stories that are all over the place are unbelievable. And I want to say, let's not give up on this story, because we need to bear witness to this story in all of its liberating power. And I am so grateful that Circle of Mercy has centered itself in the grand story of God. And yes, we do get insight and wisdom and challenges and beauty from arts and literature and other religious groups and people who are not Christian. We get all kinds of wisdom, but we still can claim this story, and it matters, especially for people like us, to keep living out of it. I grew up learning verses of the Bible by memory. We had what was called sword drills. Does anybody here have? Well, a few of us know that. It was a non-contact competitive sport in the church that was designed for us to learn the books of the Bible and to learn verses. And I grew up with my dad opening up his New Testament Greek, and when he was preaching or teaching, he would look at the Greek words and immediately translate them into English. And I grew up leaning against my mother's shoulder during long and boring sermons. And my mother would open up her Bible. And this was a Bible that was given to her just before she married. And she carried it all 62 years of her married life. It was a New Testament translation of the Bible, translated by Helen Barrett Montgomery, who was an American Baptist woman who knew Greek. And she was carrying, she had a ministry to kids in the streets. And she worried that they didn't have the kind of translation of the Bible that they could understand. And so she called them her street urchins, but she translated the Bible in contemporary language for them. And so my mother carried this all of her days, and on the front cover she has several things that she wrote in her own handwriting one of which she wrote, "Man's approval is pleasant, but not essential." I think I caught those words coming straight from her shoulder into my body. And I also caught from my parents in that community of faith a great love for the story, the biblical story. And it is kind of strange that I came along at a time in my ministry that we had a season called the Battle for the Bible. I don't think the Bible really ever asked to be part of this battle. And I have to say that I have tried desperately all of my life to make 2 Timothy 2:23 my motto. Avoid stupid and senseless controversies. Is that not a great verse to memorize? But I wasn't able to get free of all of that. The Bible has been a captive over and over again to culture. And it needs to be set free. The Bible's a pilgrim, winding its way through each unique time and people to give sustenance for the journey. And it has instigated unbelievable movements, God movements for liberation, anti-war movements, and the women's movement, the abolitionist movement, all kinds of movements. Why? Have been inspired and given courage to people from this story. At Circle, we know that we can fuss with this book, but that just shows an honest relationship. We have been shaped by it, and we, like so many down through the ages, have known the breakthrough of God again and again. We've been bent over and found that we could stand up with courage to meet the day. We have been those who have been blind to the kinds of power dynamics that shape every day in its inequities in our land. We have been able to start seeing glimmers of some of that truth. We are the ones who have known times of our spirits being dead, and yet rising again by a community of faith that has held us and walked us through troublesome times, despairing times. The community held out the hope for us when we couldn't hold it ourselves. The story matters, and the way we tell it matters. And the Jesus story, the wildest one of all, giving us courage to engage in works of justice and mercy. It's also sent us times in being arrested in civil disobedience, kept us on doing the work, and kept us talking to Jesus. Through the Sermon on the Mount and through gospel lessons and all kinds of ways in which we have kept the dialogue going. We are still desperate and longing for God. We want to become God's peace. We want to become God's love in our daily lives, in all of our relationships, and so we keep coming back for this story that matters. The story today, it was happening during desperate times, and John the Baptist was incredibly desperate. He had stood up to the power, and he was facing an unknown future and possible death. And he wanted to know, is there someone out there? Is Jesus the one? Is he the one that can deliver? Or is there somebody else? So he sent his disciples to ask Jesus, And it's amazing to me that this story, Jesus doesn't say, oh yeah, I want you to look at me, and yes, I'm the one. No, he says, look at the community. Look at what is happening in the community. And that's when he goes through this incredible list. And then he goes on to continue the teaching. And he said, you know, the troublesome times that we are in, John the Baptist is knowing them very severely now in his time in prison. And until now, you know, the reign of God has suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. That hasn't stopped happening. And then Jesus said, look, you're going to keep looking. You're going to keep on looking for somebody that's going to fix things. And you're going to be sometimes like the children where we play a flute and say, come on, let's dance. You say, no, I don't feel like dancing. Or we say, come, let's go to the Wailing Wall. And you say, no, I don't feel like mourning. And you're going to look at John. You're going to keep on coming up with reasons for why. He's not the one. You know, he just doesn't eat right. He doesn't drink right. He's got such very severe ways about him. And you say, you know, really, he's kind of weird. Maybe a bit crazed. And you just say, dismiss John. And then Jesus says, and then you look at me. And here I am, I'm eating, I'm drinking. And I'm a bit lackadaisical. And you've discovered that I like eating even with tax collectors. And you think, oh, Jesus, you don't practice enough self-discipline. And you need to work on this. And so Jesus says, you know, you got to keep looking, and then you're always going to find somebody that's just not right. And then he offers this amazing word. If you want to come with me, go ahead and come with all your burdens. I'll give you rest. A deep down kind. Take my calling and my yoke upon you. We're in this together. And you'll find I'm gentle and humble in heart. And you will find the deep rest for your souls. So, friends, what more can I say? For time would fail me to tell of Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah and David and Samuel and the prophets, and time would fail me to tell of Esther and Deborah and Abigail and Mary Magdalene and Phoebe and Lydia, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, obtained promises, shut the mouths of lions, quenched raging fire, escaped the edge of the sword, won strength out of weakness. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the hindrances and sins that cling so closely, and let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus,
the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who for the sake of the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. The story matters. Let's keep telling and living this story.
This is our story. This is the body of Christ broken for you.
This is our story. This is the cup of Christ's forgiveness and love poured out for you.
Christ invites all of us to eat this meal with thanksgiving.
My God, where I go, glory, where I reap and where I sow, glory, when my hand grips the thorn, glory, in the still and in the storm, glory, glory.
was going to mention that for prayer concerns, I'm leaving with Sydney and Abby and Jonathan right after this benediction to go to Yogi Bear Campground. And I will be met with my other 2 grandchildren, and we're going to have 3 full days of water park and mini golf and boat paddling and all kind of good stuff, right? So pray we have a really good time. So friends, time would fail me to be able to speak of you and you and you. And time would fail me to be able to speak of Circle of Mercy in all the breakthroughs of God and all the courage and strength. So, go from this place to live and to tell the amazing story of God's liberating love. In the name of the Christ who goes with us. Amen.
Amen.